It is finally time to have a look and swatch this full set of Caran Neocolor II pastels. Neocolor IIs are water-soluble pastels. When you add water on top, then they become like paint. They look a little bit like watercolors. In there, we have 84 colors, which I believe is their full range. So on the Blake's website, you can get these at $158 US. This tin feels like very high quality. It opens like this. Oh, and also, when you get the box, it comes with this sleeve, which I have cut because on the inside of the sleeve, you have this little swatch sheet. So while we swatch these, I'm also going to swatch this swatch sheet. So I'm going to be able to have it on my desk and I can choose my colors more easily. In the sketchbook here, we're also going to do some swatches, but we're going to do bigger swatches. We're going to see what it looks like with water. First, the box open like this, and then you have the full beauty. Woo! Then you take this first tin out, put it in the cap here, and you have another layer of beautiful colors. This is so beautiful. So we're gonna swatch them in order. I noticed that the way that they are placed right now is one tin is mostly the cool colors. The other tin is mostly the warm colors with the neutrals, the grays and blacks, and some metallic colors as well. So we're just gonna proceed in order. Let me show you what we are going to swatch them on. I have prepared a nice spread in my swatch book, so I can zoom you in. I wrote all the information that I had available, which is not much. So the only informations that I have are the name of the colors and their light fastness. So 1 is excellent, 2 is very good, and 3 is good. Here they have their own light fastness rating, which I have converted to mine according to the key that I used in this swatch book here. This swatch book is inspired by a bullet journal. You can watch the setup video here, but I have created a key because each brand use a different rating system. Most of them are tested with the same standards, but the way that they then translate it to their own rating system is a bit different from brand to brand. Some brands use Roman numerals, which is what I use too. Some brands use stars, some brands use plus signs. So I converted these different ratings to my own rating, which is Roman numerals. So let's start swatching. So first we have Sahara Yellow. And what I was thinking for the swatches is do a little swatch at the top part of the swatch section, maybe like a third or maybe half. Yeah, let's do half. And then what I'll do later is I'm going to add some water and drag the swatch to the bottom here. So that's it for Sahara Yellow. Then we have Orangish Yellow. One thing that I like about having this full set is that we have such a big range for every color group. So for me, it's especially nice to swatch them all like this because otherwise I would probably gravitate towards the same colors like I find myself doing usually. So I think that this swatching here is a good exercise for me to broaden a little bit my color range, or at least the colors that I gravitate towards. And hopefully I'm going to discover some new favorites. These pastels go super well on drawing paper because of the smoothness of the paper. But I have also used them on cold pressed watercolor paper, which is also good, to be honest. It's not as smooth of an application as on hot pressed watercolor paper or just drawing paper, but I think that there's a way to embrace that texture. At least that's what I do. I really like having extra texture. I feel like it's a bonus anyway. Yeah, I feel like they go well on every type of paper. It just depends what you're looking for. The only colors that are a bit less light fast, I would say, are the purple violet, the mauve, the lilac, and the violet. We are going to continue on with Prussian blue. Now let's do royal blue. Another thing that I really like about my Neocolor IIs is that they feel like children's art materials. So I find myself being way more carefree, I'm looser, I'm able to let go, and I end up with a finished artwork that is way looser, that is more fun, that has more movement in it, compared to when I use my more serious art materials like watercolors, where I find myself, without wanting to, I find myself being way tighter in my work. The only thing I would like to have for this set is the pigment information. If you know where I can find it, please let me know, because I tried to look and I couldn't find it. I think it would be very useful to know. Another thing that I really like about any water-soluble medium is that when you add the water, sometimes you get a really big color change, and it's such a big element of surprise. I really love it. You never know what to expect. Maybe if you're the type of artist that really needs to know exactly what color they're gonna get, then maybe it's not for you. But if you like a little bit of surprise from time to time, I think you would like them. These 2 pages are done. As you can see, there are a lot of blues in this set, and they are all pretty much different from one another, which is very nice. The only colors in this page that are a bit less light fast are the ultramarine, periwinkle blue, sky blue, and turquoise green. Other than that, they're all either excellent or very good. For this part, I'm going to use my Raphael Caran brush in the size 8. This is a synthetic brush. This is the brush that I use for most things. I really like its size. I'm gonna make sure that it's very clean. And yeah, let's start with the Sahara yellow. So what I was thinking is wetting this first half of the swatch and then dragging it down. I like how the color changes when you add the water. And I was thinking after this part, we could just try out a couple of techniques on a piece of paper, and then I could do a little drawing. Also, you don't have to get this full set. If you want to try out a few colors, you can buy some individual colors, which I think after watching this video, you have a better idea which colors you like, which you don't. Or you could buy also a smaller set. They have a lot of different sizes. Now let's move on to the second row, salmon pink. But I can't wait to get into these purples and these blues. I think this is when we'll have the biggest surprise as of color changes. But they are so creamy. Now let's do purple. What's good too is that, you know, sometimes wax pastels, after a while, because of the waxy texture, you get to a point where it's hard to add anything on top. Well, when you add the water and you let it dry, then you can always add something on top. You could add another layer of these colors if you find that the color is not saturated enough. You could just add some water, let it dry, and add a second layer. Or you could use a different color and draw on top. The possibilities are endless. Then our last row. Then violet, which is also a very pretty color. Then aubergine, which is another one I'm very excited to try because I feel like this is going to be a more muted color. Oh yeah, it's pretty. Now indigo blue. Look at how pretty this is. Oh my god, so pretty. Oh, wow. Okay, my battery died. Now, last one for this row, we're gonna swatch night blue, which is such a pretty color. This one changes a lot, I feel, when you add the water. I like it even more with the water. That's it for the first page. Let's now do the second page. Royal blue. Oh, I like the kind of purplish undertone that comes through when you add the water for this one. Now we have the ultramarine, which is not very light fast. Then sapphire blue. Periwinkle blue is a color that I had before getting this set and I love it so much. Okay, now let's do sky blue, which, oh, it's so pretty. It's so sad that periwinkle blue and sky blue are not, well, are a bit less light fast. The Neocolor II chart says that it is still good. So I don't know, maybe I could still use them. Just I would maybe not use them as like the main color of an artwork. This light cobalt blue hue is very pale. I think it would be good to create a sky or maybe do some highlights, but it doesn't show up very much when you add the water. Okay, last row. We have turquoise blue. It's gonna be good to do tropical waters. Okay, now let's do turquoise green. Then Veronese green. Oh, wow. Yeah, I like that. It makes me think a little bit about mint toothpaste, but maybe a bit more saturated than that. But maybe when I add the water, yeah, you can get a pretty good minty color. Chromium oxide green, which is a color that I had before and I use it a lot for my landscapes. A bit more muted. And then to finish up, we have moss green. Oh yeah, I think this one is a new favorite. There's a lot of yellow that comes through. Beautiful. Okay, continuing with the greens. We now have dark green. Oh, that's gonna be so pretty when I add the water. Woo! I can already see it. I said that the tints are separated by cool and warm colors. I feel like some of the colors that are in the cool section could be placed in the warm section. I think they are loosely placed by colors and by warmth. Let's have a look at this page. So here are the colors in this third page. I can see myself using a lot of these colors for my landscapes. As of the light fastness, they are all either excellent or very good. Okay, now we have yellow. There's a lot of yellows in this set too, so I can appreciate that. I hope that they're different enough from one another, but we're gonna see that soon when we add the water. Now we are swatching the fourth page, at least doing the drawing part of the swatches. We have these beautiful yellows, reds. I can't wait to add the water there because I feel like some reds could be a little bit similar from one another, but when you add the water is when you really know. Now you might see that my voice is not matching my hands. It's because my microphone's battery died, so I don't really know what I was talking about. Oh, I remember one thing that I was saying is that sometimes the name on the swatch sheet and the name on the pastels do not match exactly. So for Carmine Lake, you see on the swatch sheet, it's written Carmine Lake, but on the pencil, it's written only Carmine. But when I prepared the swatch book, I wrote the names according to the color chart. I did not have a look at every pastel. So there's this orange that is called Fast Orange on the color chart, which is a weird name. But when I looked at the pastel, the name on it is Light Fast Orange. So you'll see me later, I'm going to add light to the title of this color. Other than that, I think I was saying here that the only colors that are a bit less light fast in this page are Carmine Lake, Saffron, and Rosette. Now we're gonna add the water to our first color here, which is dark green. And oh, I always love a beautiful color shift like this. I feel like these bluish greens are so beautiful when you add the water, and it's not just with Neocolor IIs. I find it to be the same with watercolor pencils. Well, that's it. These are the only other water-soluble mediums that I have. But with my watercolor pencils, the color shift is so pretty too with this type of color. I feel like maybe it's because you get a nice undertone sometimes that doesn't show just with the pencil or pastel form, but when you add the water, then the undertone shows up. Now we're gonna do emerald green. I can't wait to use all of these greens in landscapes. Emerald green is so pretty, and I know that I've been saying that about pretty much every color, but look at this. But what I can't wait to swatch is phthalocyanine green, which sometimes I call phthalo green because phthalocyanine, it's a long name. But I always love my phthalo colors, either phthalo blues or phthalo greens. I feel like you get a very nice color shift when you add the water. They're so vibrant and they're very nice to use in mixes. Now we have this grass green, which is pretty intense color. It makes me think of the spring grass, you know, when it starts to come out of the ground and it's super vibrant, super green, but it lasts like 2 weeks. But I like it, it's pretty. And then we have bright green, which I can see myself using a lot in mixes as well. So we have yellow green, and then we're gonna move on to light olive, which I think is gonna be so interesting. I really like my yellowish greens, so I feel like this is a really good example of one. A bit more muted too, which is always good for creating artwork. Sometimes colors are a little bit too intense and you have to tone them down. This is Chinese green, a color that I like so much. I don't think that it's a green that much. It really looks like a yellow with a slight greenish undertone, maybe. Then you have lime green, which is so spring-like. And then we have jade green, which is another color that is a little bit minty. I think this is going to be good too for creating tropical landscapes, tropical waters. Then I think here is where the second tint starts. We're starting again with the yellows. Now we have pale yellow, which is the perfect color for a banana. And to finish off this page, we have canary yellow, which is a very saturated, very vibrant color. Gonna be good to use as is or in mixes. Moving on to the next page, we have yellow, regular yellow. Looks a little bit like canary yellow, I think, but maybe a little bit warmer. Then we have golden yellow, which I'm very excited to swatch. I feel like these golden colors are super vibrant. They make me think of quinacridons for some reason. Then we have orange and fast orange or light fast orange, which I'm looking forward to see the difference between the two, because just like that, they look quite similar. I can't see a difference, but they look quite similar. Okay, but when I add the water like this, I can see that light fast orange has a little bit less yellow in it. Personally, I don't use a lot of oranges, so I don't think that I would have needed the two of them. Now we have flame red, and I remember that when I swatched it, I was like, this is not a red, this is an orange. But with this particular lighting right now, I feel like this is kind of a red. And now we have a couple of reds that are going to be interesting to swatch because they look very similar. We have vermilion, which is a color that I had before and I remember that I love a lot. Then light cadmium red, which I can see is a little bit colder than vermilion, I think. Yeah, a little bit colder. Then we're gonna swatch scarlet, which is a very saturated color, very vibrant. Still a little bit colder than the light cadmium red. Now ruby red. So far ruby red I think is pretty similar to scarlet, but I would say it's a touch colder. And now we're swatching Carmine Lake, which has a lot of pink undertone in it, which I can appreciate. And now we're starting the earth tones. It's my first crimson alizarin in any medium, but I would have thought that this color would have been a bit more pink And like that, I feel like it looks a little bit like a red oxide or something like that. I really like this color. It's just not what I would have thought an alizarin crimson would have looked like, but I'm going to use it a lot for sure. Now we have burnt sienna, which also I feel like is a bit darker than what I would have thought for a burnt sienna. But maybe I'm used to my quinacridone sienna. Maybe that's why. But I like it a lot. I'm going to use it. English red, so beautiful. For sure I'm going to use it a lot. Then we have saffron, which it's a shame that it's a bit less light fast because it's so pretty. But I'm still going to use it. And to finish off this page, we have russet, which is the perfect color for a potato. And it's very beautiful. I love it. Look at this last row. Wow. So now we have finished a second spread. These colors are just so beautiful. I love all of them. There's not one color that I dislike. Like I said, I might not use all the oranges, but they're still very pretty. They fit so well in this spread. Yeah, beautiful. Now we are just drawing the last swatches for the last spread. So we have a page and a half, pretty much. So we're continuing with the beautiful earth tones, which I can't wait to add water. We have olive, which is a color that I had before, and a couple of other interesting browns, which is always helpful. I do a lot of landscapes, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to use a lot of them. And now we're starting to swatch the colors that I'm a bit less interested in. There's a lot of grays in this set, which I don't use too much. Then continuing with the next page, we have a couple more grays. The metallic colors were very creamy when I drew with them. They had a slightly different texture than the rest of the Neocolor II. So it's going to be interesting to add the water and see how they behave. Here I was saying that there's a lot of grays, but there's some grays that I think I could use. There's this light gray and the silver gray, which I think would be good for skies. And this beige, it just depends how it looks when we add the water, but it could be interesting. Then we have the white, which is going to be great for highlights for sure. It's going to be super useful. And these metallics here, I'm not so sure about. I don't really use metallics, but we'll see. And now we have finished this color chart. It's so pretty. It's going to be such a good tool. In this little spread here, we only have the ochre and the olive brown that are a bit less light fast. Oh wow, the cinnamon is so pretty. Now we're doing the black, which I guess is useful in any set, so I can't complain too much about it. It's pretty dark. Now we have this charcoal gray, which looks like a black when we swatch it, and as you can see, when I add the water, it looks a bit drier. The pastel lines are a bit harder to make disappear, and it kind of loses its saturation a bit when you add the water. Now we're doing sepia, which I would have thought would have a bigger yellow undertone. For me, a sepia is like these old yellowish photos, and I feel like this is more like a mix between a brown and a gray, which I guess could be considered as sepia, but for me it would have been nice if it was a bit more yellow. Now we have Payne's gray, which I guess is one of the grays that I could be using because of the blue undertone. So I find grays pretty boring, but when they have a different undertone, then I can see myself using them. So this Payne's gray I could use. Now there's a grayish black, which is fine, but I don't know if I'm going to use it that much. It's not very exciting. Now we're going to move on to the other page, which is a lot more grays. There's this dark gray that also doesn't seem to be very exciting. Then you have just regular gray, I guess. It's not really exciting to me. I guess I could use it for dark skies, stormy clouds, stuff like that, but it's not a subject that I tend to paint or draw a lot. Oh, now we have the beige, which when I add the water, I can see the beige. I wasn't sure when I drew with it because it looks like just a yellowish gray, but when I add the water, I can see it's pretty beige. So I can see myself using it. And finally, we have light gray and silver gray, which are good colors for skies. I think I'm gonna use them. I like that silver gray is a bit warmer than light gray. I feel like it gives us an interesting range. Yeah, so here's the white. It's white. Then we'll do the silver, which, yeah, I think the silver is better just as it is. When you add the water, it's not that silvery, it's not that metallic. It's just a normal gray, and it doesn't spread too well. The gold seems to be spreading a bit better, but still, it's not as easy to spread as the previous colors, and I think it's a bit more metallic than the silver once it's wet, but not 100%. And let's do the bronze. I remember that these were very creamy, but they had kind of a different texture than the rest when I drew with them. So that could explain the difference too that I see when I add the water. They surely have a different pigmentation, a different composition, so maybe that explains it. But still, I feel like the gold and the bronze are a bit more metallic once swatched, but we'll see once they're dried. So this is the last spread that we just did. I would say that this is not my favorite spread, mainly because of this area here, which is colors that I don't think I will use that much. Except the beige, the light gray, and the silver gray. These three I can see myself using, and the white because it's just very useful. I love these. Here are just some little close-ups for you. Don't hesitate to press pause and take screenshots. If you're interested to see some of the different ways that you can use your Neocolor tools, and if you want to see me do a little drawing using them, please head on to part 2, which is out now. The link is going to be in description. I decided to split this video in 2 because I thought it would have been too long to do only one video. So yeah, part 1 is out, part 2 is out. I hope you enjoy. See you there.